So, Ken, what is your job and what does it entail?
Over the 52 years that I've worked in studios, it's covered a whole bunch of things. As an engineer, I look at the job of an engineer much like the director of photography for a movie. Except I'm dealing with the sound, whereas the director of photography is dealing with the look of something. As the engineer, you're in charge of the sound, the mics that you use, the EQ that you use, ultimately how it sounds in the end. The next progression for me was producer, and the producer is like a director of a movie, and it's you primarily, as far as I'm concerned, it's trying to get the best out of the artist. The same way as a director tries to get the best out of the actor, I try and get the best out of the musicians and the vocalist, if there is one. Having in both of them, engineer and producer, you need to have a concept of what it's going to be like when you first go into the studio, so you know what you're working towards. Then I'm doing far less engineering production than I used to. I do the master classes, which finish up being like that, but the rest of the time is education. It's giving lectures, trying to instill a little of what it used to be like in what I consider and some other people consider the golden age of British music recording. Just because we're losing so much, and we need to take a step back and just look at what was there and why it was so great, and try and bring that forward to the more technological age that we're in now.
Cool. Again, this question might be quite an expansive one, I suppose, for yourself, because
we already know that's a problem.
The second question is really, how has your career developed from where you started out to kind of where you are now? And I'd imagine for someone with a CV like yourself, that is quite the journey.
I started off knowing nothing. I now know a little. That's how it's changed. It's for me. It's whenever I'm in the studio, it's learning every time, because every artist is different. What they need, every musician is different. What they need from you is different all the time. And I've just realised that this is creaking like crazy. But no, it's I know a little more than I did when I started, but still not everything. That will be tomorrow.
But that again, from stemming back from the talk that you gave, you kind of talked about from being that 12-year-old kid with a tape machine, and going from that to engineering some of the biggest records of kind of all time. That's surely quite surely there's got to be some sort of trajectory, that there's some sort of path that's kind of set you there, or do you just think it's just passion and work ethic and those sorts of things that have kind of put you in good stead along that journey?
It's a question of passion, most definitely. You've got to have the passion, otherwise the business will just suck you dry. I can still do it after 52 years because there's still that moment of the musicians coming together in the studio, and just that performance, and just the thrill you get from it, the feeling you get from it.
A kind of magic happening in front of your eyes.
Like a year ago, I was working in Nashville with a couple, Dave Rollins and Gillian Welsh, and it's a type. The genre of music is Americana, whatever that means. It's more sort of bluegrassy kind of thing. It was just the two of them, and it was magic. It was all live. It was 2 acoustics, 2 vocals, and 4 mics. And just doing it, and every take, it was just, that's amazing.
So at what point, Ken, did you realise that you wanted to work in this area?
When I got a tape recorder when I was 12 and a half for Christmas, and I fell in love with tape, everything about it, and most especially the smell of it. It's such a... There is a tactile thing to working with tape, that whole lacing up of the tape machine, of cutting the tape and joining it together. There's
a physical kind of craftsmanship.
Absolutely,
to it, yeah.
that is not there just by pushing. But if all you're doing is inputting data into a computer, you might as well go and work at a bank and just you're dealing with money. Wow, as opposed to musical notes, and there needs to be something more real about it for me.
So what would you say is the best aspect of your job of kind of being a recording engineer and a producer?
Being able to sit back, put my feet up, and just have that great music just blasting away. There's nothing quite like it. For me, it's the greatest drug in the world. Just that having that talent in the studio. Now, admittedly, I've been blessed to work with some of the greatest talent of the 20th century. It's been easy for me. But that's the whole thing. And they don't have to be well-known musicians. It's just the talent, and even sometimes the simplicity. They don't have to play that much, but if the simple can be just as effective, can move you just as much.
So flipping that question on its head, what would you say are the worst aspects of the job? What have been the negatives? There must be. Everybody goes through a day where work kind of does their head in and that sort of stuff. What would be a bad thing from that perspective?
It can get boring at times. Keep on hearing the same thing time and time again. Probably the worst aspect for me was when egos take control and the humanity disappears from it. Like a band that I managed and produced and engineered for a while became successful in the States, and then they thought they'd done it all themselves, so they fired everyone around them, including the manager, producer, and engineer. And that was really tough to deal with. That wasn't just a bad day. That was a bad few months, to say the least. So there's that kind of thing when egos take control.
Again, this might be quite a difficult one for yourself to answer, Ken. But what would you say happens in a typical working week of being a producer and engineer, if there is such a thing?
A typical week is hard. It's you start off the beginning of a project. You start off. For me, it's always I start off getting the drum sounds. I'll have the drummer come in first, set the drums up, mic him up, get the sound. The other musicians come in, and then it's starting to work. Hopefully, the first day you've got the sounds together enough that you can maybe get a master that first day of just make one song, then keep on just getting the basic tracks of the songs, and then you start the overdubs maybe the next week or whatever, and finish it, then mix it. It's fairly simple, or it should be. It shouldn't take 3 years the way it seems to for a lot of artists these days. We used to do it in 2 weeks.
Again, this might have. Usually, I give people one shot at this. I give you 3 for this one, Ken. What has been your top 3 career highlights to date? I give you 5. Actually, you've got a pretty good CV. You're allowed top 5 kind of moments.
Okay. My sister-in-law was having a baby. My wife and I drove down to the hospital. I dropped my wife off. She was going in to see her sister. I went, parked the car, and was walking back to the hospital. And this must have been 1972. And as I'm walking past the house, coming out of the bedroom window upstairs, blast Ziggy. That was, oh, hell, someone likes it. Do I have to keep this clean? Because I wouldn't have said hell normally. It was
okay.
oh, fuck, they like it. That was amazing. First time working with Mahavishnu Orchestra, who incredible bunch of musicians, and just they were all. It was all live in the studio, and just that first time having got the sounds, and then they just play, and it's yes, it's things like that. I can't. Sitting back after completion of Crime of the Century by Supertramp, and the monitors speakers that we used, they were built by an English company called Kodak. They were 7 foot tall, and they weighed half a ton each, and they were astounding. You could get them so loud, and they were still so clean. And we'd finished mixing and everything that last night. We put it in order. We just sat back and turned it loud, and it was, and it was like, have you seen that ad? I think it's for JBL, I'm not sure, where the guy's sitting down and his hair's going back because the speaker. It was like that. It was that moment. So there you go. There are three. There are three. There are lots more, but
there are three. There are obviously three standout ones that come to mind. So, Ken, what are your professional aspirations for the future? What would you like to do in the future?
To keep working.
Is there any particular band or artist you'd like to work with? Or
no,
stuff like that?
No, not really. If the right thing came along, then absolutely. But what that is, there's no one I can think of specifically. Professional aspirations is within the educational side of things, through giving these lectures and all of that. I would love to just get one person in each one of them that carries the message on. If I get that much, then I'm
winning.
Very happy. Yeah.
So I have a feeling I know what the answer is going to be to this one, but
so you answer it. Come on, you can.
So, what advice would you give aspiring students if you could kind of see that 12-year-old kid and you were as you were now? What advice would you kind of pass on to someone starting today?
The advice is easy. Number one, if you have a plan B, take it, because working in this business has to be the be-all and end-all that you can do. You can't want to. You have to do this. You have no other choice. Unless that's there, give up, because you'll lose every relationship you have. You probably won't make much money. You'll work your ass off, and if it's your passion, if it's the only thing you can do, you can get to the end of it, and at least you can look back and, wow, I lived my dream. There's that, because you might not get much more than that feeling. The other thing is, I'm a firm believer in trying to get a gig the way I did, which is write a letter or write letters. These days, no one writes letters. It's all emails, and emails just, boom, they're straight off. They mean nothing. Most people don't even read a complete email. They'll skim it. A letter is very different these days, and a manager of a studio, if they get a well-written letter, and it will stick in their mind, and you send them out. If you don't hear back the first time, you send out another one in a month's time, because they'll always be putting them up, and you'll be really getting stuck in their brain every time, so that when they do need someone, hopefully they'll come to you.